And we are live. How's it going, everyone? We're back again with Andre, the CEO of Allbridge. He's joining us again after a few weeks of rapid development. How's it going, Andre?
It is all good. It is my absolute pleasure to be here, and thank you so much for inviting. Coming back with even more good news to you and your community is something that I have been waiting over for the last months.
Yeah, definitely. There's been a ton of updates, and I know there's a lot of things we want to dig into. So just to kind of kick things off for anyone who maybe hasn't been following along on our website or wasn't able to tune into the last stream, could you give a brief introduction on yourself, Allbridge, and APY Swap?
Okay, I'm a co-founder and CEO at APY Swap Foundation, and we are focusing on cross-chain projects. And I'm also a co-founder in Allbridge. This is the cross-chain bridge, which is the part of the foundation that is currently supporting 7 chains in total, including Solana, Binance Smart Chain, Ether, Huboi Eco Chain, Avalanche, CELO, and Polygon. But we hope, and I suppose that would be the part of the future discussion, to add quite a few more chains until the end of the year.
Yeah, definitely. It looks like you guys have a lot loading up, and I'm sure we'll get into that. Just to kick things off, I mean, we were touching on a lot of updates that were coming out last time we were on stream. And let's just start with one of the most recent with the contract migration. Can you, before we even dive into what the migration is for, can you touch on sort of the process of migrating contracts and why this needs to be done for anyone who's not too sure on the technical aspects of things?
So what we were doing over the last couple of weeks, maybe even months, and what was actually deployed this Saturday, it was the introduction of the dynamic fee. And while I will be speaking about that just in a few seconds, I wanted to say that this software, this contracts upgrade, it has been really vital for our business. So what we did, in fact, it is that if you take a look at our roadmap, at the history of our bridge, we initially took just a flat rate from the users who used the bridge, which was kind of cool for the users because we have seen the transactions of 50 million USDT paying just a $0.25 to do this transaction. I suppose the owner of this transaction was quite happy to pay such a small fee. But what we had in mind is that because we are a working business and as a company, we're interested in getting the revenue and what is even more important, sharing this revenue with our community. So our business model, it includes giving away to the stakers of the token 80% of the fees and keeping the 20% of the fees to us as a company to cope up with the burn rate, which I think is kind of reasonable. Now, to do that most efficiently, we decided that we will change the complete fee structure and fee model. So instead of having the flat rate, a small flat rate, we introduced a percentage from each and every transaction being made on the bridge. We currently run this on Solana, as the Solana chain is the main chain for us, but it will be soon also available on other chains as well. Now, what happens here? If you want to transfer from Solana to any other network, right now you will need to pay 0.3% of the transaction as a fee. However, if you're interested in minimizing this fee, you can stake the tokens, and not only you will get the percentage of the fee of other transaction back, you will also have your fee minimized. Our aim here, what we wanted to achieve, it is, let's say you want to transfer, I don't know, 100 USDT or USDC. That means that you will pay, if you pay the percentage and you don't stake anything, you do nothing, you will pay 30 cents. And this is pretty much the same as you had before, where you had from 25 to 35 on average cents on different pairs. We had in our concept, in our idea, that the retail investors who are doing not like big transactions, nothing will change for them, even if they don't want to get involved in other internal bridge mechanics. But for the whales, we thought it would be fair that either whales pay the larger percentage of the fee, or alternatively, they have a possibility to get a small amount of bridge tokens, stake it, minimizing the fee. It is also, it's like we don't have any restrictions on unstaking. If you want, if you're, for some reason unhappy with the bridge token, you don't want to get the fees from other transactions, you can basically just get the tokens, stake them, do the transaction, unstake them. It is entirely up to you. We believe in the freedom that we provide to the users.
Awesome. Yeah. And just to jump in there, is there a minimum staking amount of ABR tokens that you have to stake, or is it just as long as you're staking some amount, you are eligible for this fee structure?
I can say that you significantly eliminate fees if you stake 100 ABR. So 100 ABR is roughly a little bit more than 500,000 of USDC, and it brings your fee down from 0.3% to 0.05%, which is 6 times lower.
Awesome.
So this like feels a sweet spot. Yeah.
Yeah. And is it, I actually didn't get to look into the fee structure yet. Is it something dynamic? So is there only if you're staking 100, or is there like tier?
No, it is a curve. It is a curve. Okay. So the more you stake, the less fee you get. But it is kind of, it is not flat curve. It is not a direct something. It is the more you stake, the less fee you get. But the amount, it affects the percentage in sort of exponential way, if I may say.
Yeah.
So the difference between staking 10 ABR and 100 ABR would be huge. The difference between 100 ABR and 200 ABR would not be that huge.
Exactly. That makes sense. And that 100 ABR sounds like a decent sweet spot for a lot of entry-level users. To kind of move forward here, you guys, and this ties into what you're talking about. It's funny because we were talking about this just 3-4 weeks ago. I don't remember the exact date, but we now have the dynamic fees, and we also have the ABR staking, which I know a lot of people were excited about. So for that ABR staking, I imagine the fees are already pouring into that APY that's there. Are there also a small amount of ABR rewards being allocated there, or is that APY we see only from the fees right now?
I can share it exclusively here on this interview. It is something that no one has ever heard before, because those numbers are like kept up internally. So yes, we did allocate some portion of ABR and portion of recent fees, which were not relatively high. But since our deployment on Saturday until now, we are here like on Tuesday, we got 21,000 of USDC already in fees. If you think about it, it's like 3 days, right? So you can have a moderate, after the introduction of new dynamics fee model, you can have a moderate expectation of 200,000 USDC on Solana alone, not to mention other chains we will be rolling out this thing. And from that amount, as I said, we promised community to distribute those fee rewards, and we will absolutely do that. It is 80%. So what I'm conservatively thinking right now, if we keep up to the pace, then that means, like, let's say we have 200,000 on Solana per month as an expectation. And then let's say on all other chains, we have the same amount. I'm really trying to be conservative here. So let us make 400,000, and we take 80% of that. So that means that over the months, 320,000 of USDC will be distributed to the stakers, just for them being part of the whole thing. And I think this is kind of massive, because it is not that we're a working business that has revenue, and we are delivering this revenue to the people who are holders of the token. The way we see it is that we will use this amount that we gather in the fees to buy ABR on the market, and then we take the ABR and we put it into the pools, the reward pools. I think it is kind of fair, so that those ABR, they don't come from anywhere out of the open market. That is the idea we have in mind right now.
Yeah, and that's incredible there that you sort of have this model where you can pay users yield farming rewards without taking a massive toll on your token and raising inflation really high. And this is something we touched on last stream, right? The balance of, okay, how much incentive do we provide our users at the cost of our token? And it seems like this is a great way where it just diminishes a lot of that. And obviously, it sounds like you guys are still looking to allocate some ABR rewards, but it gives you a lot of flexibility actually having this revenue to distribute to the users.
I actually want, as now we see the enormous success of this business model, I want to somehow change the inflation model we have right now, because during our last call, we introduced like a direct increase for the stakers and the allocation of tokens to the stakers, just that the tokens that we have for the incentives. And while that seemed right at that point, I can now see that the users will get much more tokens from the fees. And if we buy them on the market and distribute to the users, we don't need really to have any inflation at all. This is something I'm considering right now. I will try to come up with the thoughts of how we can do that so the stakers will get the most. And on the other hand, we will not see the inflation, internal inflation. I hope to do that by the end of the week.
Yeah, that's amazing. That actually, I really like this. Seems like something that's reoccurring. That you guys are really thinking about the inflation, and I think it's important to note, like nobody knows the right answer to inflation. We've just seen a lot of scenarios where it doesn't work, where you kind of have these tokens go in an inflationary spiral, but I think it's just important to have an eye on it. It's not like anyone's going to have a holy grail answer, but being able to distribute rewards based on revenue is definitely the first step. I'm curious, it obviously does involve a lot of work kind of in incorporating this dynamic fee structure. You guys are redoing your entire contracts. Is there any word on what chains will be next or any sort of timeline there? I imagine you guys want to attack the chains with the most volume first.
Okay, so as for the dynamic fees, again, this is exclusive information only available right here as we speak. We hope to do the dynamic fee structure on Polygon this Thursday, if things go well. It is no promise, but this is what we hope to do. As for the chains we are planning to introduce, again, please, I will share with you my vision of what we do when, but it is not set in stone. Please understand that the development is something that can take 1 or 2 more weeks here and there. But our current understanding that we will integrate Phantom and Arbitrum by the end of the month, like next week and the week after next week, something like that. We are right now on 16th of November, so we have 2 weeks ahead of us. Now, after that, we also want to integrate in the first I think my partners and my CTO and my developers are gonna kill me for that, because they hate when I make official announcement of the development progress. But I do sincerely hope that in the first half of December, we will see Terra, because we are already working on Terra contracts right as we speak. So hopefully, yes, it would be Phantom Arbitrum Terra, like
Yeah,
next 4 weeks or something.
yeah, that's amazing to see that. We actually here at DeFi Direct, we've been looking to kind of expand our coverage to multi-chain, and we're also looking at Phantom Arbitrum. And I really have an eye on Terra as well. I think that's a pretty unique ecosystem there. And even to back up a bit, I think it's incredibly important to just take a step back. I think it's noble and it's amazing for the community to share sort of your development goals. But yeah, 100%, I understand where you say, look, these are not hard set goals. I'd rather have it. There's this really nice balance where your Allbridge is willing to share their goals with the community, but then it's also important for the community to understand that a lot of these things shouldn't be rushed. So if it does take an extra 3-4 days, an extra week, even 2 weeks, it's probably for a good reason, testing these contracts, making sure it's actually secure and ready to go out. But I do like that you sort of have this push to get things out and kind of keep these things rolling. And I think it's notable that we were talking about things last stream that were coming soon. And I think like within days of the stream, like the ABR staking rolled out and everyone was super excited about that. I don't know if you have too much else to build on that, but I kind of just wanted to move forward to something completely, or not completely different, but Solana obviously seems to be where a lot of the demand for Allbridge is. And I recently saw that you spoke on a panel at Breakpoint in Lisbon. I was trying to find the video, but I don't think like the recording has been posted yet. Probably
Actually,
find it.
it was. It actually
Oh, okay.
was. I have just received the link. If you want, I can share it with you,
Yeah, that would
like
be,
right now. Um,
yeah, that would be
it
great.
uh, it has been sent to me like recently, and yeah, it is on Twitch, and
Oh,
I
okay,
will
very
share it. Solana News. I'm sharing it with the group in the group with you right now, and
nice.
if you want, you can share it with the community. Yeah, done.
Yep. Lovely. I will drop that in there for chat. But yeah, I was just looking at it, wanted to check out that panel. But I'm just curious overall, how was that experience at Breakpoint working with the Solana ecosystem?
I personally loved it. I mean, I have had my share of crypto conferences in 2017, also 16, just a little bit 18. And then since 2019, I basically stopped attending the conferences for a while for the reason that I decided that there is not too much sense because you see a lot of people who are just interested in hype and they are interested in, I don't know, asking what is going to be the price of Bitcoin tomorrow or something. And here, after a long pause in my journeys to crypto conferences, I came to Breakpoint, and it was so cool that I can say that if they make another Breakpoint tomorrow, I will most probably drop all of my personal stuff, not business stuff, obviously, and fly there like straight away. I really loved the vibe and the people who came there because it was not about you know how much is gonna be the Solana tomorrow. Like I said previously, it was about what products are being built on Solana, what is the infrastructure, how those products can benefit each other. And people were so open and so enthusiastic. I really loved the atmosphere and the quality of people that Breakpoint gathered at a single place in the world. Absolutely cool.
Yeah, it looked like an amazing event. And I just thought it'd be fun to shed light on because I know a lot of people, including myself, I've yet to be to a crypto conference, let alone a DeFi conference. And it just seemed like Breakpoint, there was a lot of good networking and minds all in the same place. Like I saw numerous tweets about the hacker house, and that was just insane. Like seeing that set up there and everyone just grinding away. I'm curious, what was sort of like the most notable moment maybe that you took away from Breakpoint in Lisbon, just to give us viewers, people from the outside, a little more insight?
For me, the panel discussion about the bridges was obviously the most important. Important not for the reason that I have had an amazing opportunity to speak about Allbridge there, but also before and after this discussion, I've met other bridges on Solana, and namely, I met Wormhole, I've met dBridge, I met Zero Layer, and I have had an opportunity to speak to the guys and learn what they're up to right now, know more about their business model, know more about their tech, and some parts of that, like Zero Layer, what they explained to me, how they process the transactions, how they put in the outbound transactions everything regarding the fees. So users don't need to do the second sign-in, but it is all in the first transaction. I think it is pretty cool.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that was just an amazing event. I dropped the Twitch link in there for anyone who wants to catch up on the panel. There's also a ton of, on the Solana YouTube itself, there's so many panel discussions just being uploaded by the hour. So that's a great way to catch up there. I definitely want to jump in and watch some of those. I didn't quite get all the fix in on Breakpoint I wanted, so I'll be watching those replays. And kind of just to move forward here, I think liquidity is a big topic for bridges. And I think this is where we start to see a little bit of differentiation between bridges. And we touched on this a little bit. How do you guys look to kind of have liquidity for seamless bridging? It looks like you guys have been off to a great start. Like I've used Allbridge numerous times since our last stream. How do you look to sort of provide this liquidity?
And now, today, we rely on our partners, namely on Saber, on Solana chain. So what happens is that when you get the token breached to Solana, you receive a rep token, and then this rep token, through the incentivized pair on Saber, is being able to be converted to the native token. That is something that is really cool. It is really working. And in future, we want to make more parts of this process under the hood. So people would not even be aware that we do the rep token and that we get to the native token. I think this is the way to go for now. In future, we may also think about actually two things. It is same thing, but it has two different angles to it. Now, one of the topics for discussion that we had on Breakpoint was that sooner or later breaches will start moving to the native tokens rather than rep tokens. That is like organic. So how can we ensure that we get the native tokens? So first, it is obviously the partnership and incentivized pairs with rep to native token. Other than that, there is a possibility that large market makers will start coming in, providing native tokens on both parts of the chain. I do think, though, that inviting big guys to provide the liquidity is cool, but I would be personally more interested in something like community related. So think about providing native token liquidity on different chains as the liquidity pools provided by the community. It would be sort of the single-sided staking. So for example, you have the same asset here and there. You're owner of this asset, and you put this asset on the bridge to the liquidity pool, enabling people to take from this liquidity pool, and you gain your sort of incentive for that. But essentially, if you do believe in this asset, it is absolutely no problem for you that it is on different chains, and it is a pleasure for you because you don't risk any sort of impermanent loss because it is single-sided. It is just on different chains. I would be thinking that in 2022 we will be moving in those directions. Time will show us which of those three ways that we can go would be the most efficient one, but I'm definitely eager to try them.
Yeah, and I definitely think that's an important discussion there. What's the most optimal? I think that's a fun one to bring up, but that's not to take away that using partners for liquidity currently it's worked perfectly. It works for the most part. I haven't had any issues. I do have just a question here. I use the Solana to BSC bridge, and I'm bridging over the wrapped ABBUSD. How is it that I'm able to instantly receive BUSD on the other end?
It is thanks to Saber, and
Okay.
I really rely on Saber for what they're doing. And I see Saber, our strategic partner, becoming even more strategic in future. I don't think I will be able to provide you details on this call, but if we have one in a month, you will most certainly hear much more good things about Saber and what we do together. That being said, why I'm speaking about users providing those pairs or liquidity providers is that we, for some set reason, we don't see Saber on all the chains. So when we bridge to Solana, we are all set, and I'm absolutely happy to proceed the way we're working. But when we bridge from Solana to Avalanche, it sometimes becomes tricky to find the reasonable amount of liquidity to transfer there from rep token to native token. So as the bridge owner, I'm thinking what we can do. And this, looks back to what I said before, is that it would be either users or liquidity providers. We will see how that plays out.
Definitely. And I think, right, there's no sense to change something that's not broken, but it's important to think about these things. And I brought this up last time. It's just having the liquidity for bridges. Like that's ultimately what bridges need. But it seems like you guys are on track with that and thinking about other solutions just in case something does end up happening. But overall, I mean, it seemed to work perfectly, and Saber's been killing it on that end. Just to elaborate, or even just move forward, multi-chain bridging, there's obviously some sort of security and smart contract risk. How do you guys go about being proactive in these things? I know you guys have an audit from Hacking. We spoke about that last stream. Sort of what do you guys look to do moving forward, and how do you always kind of keep an onus on security?
This is other thing that was sort of insightful for me personal at the breakpoint. I have spoken to a number of companies there, of course, Hacking included as our main cybersecurity partner that we plan to work, and we're working right now. Now, a lot of cybersecurity companies are currently considering moving from just building the audits to the subscription-based model. When, if you think about it, as the bridge, we are deploying each and every week some new code. Now, that means essentially, and I would kindly ask users not to freak out, because it is not just us, it is everyone on the market, people just not being as open as I am right now. The code gets updated. You get an audit today, that doesn't mean an insurance for tomorrow, because tomorrow you get a new bunch of code, and what happens next? Now, what cybersecurity companies are thinking right now, as I mentioned, a subscription fee. That means they are not just building a report, they're following with you together on your deployment. So each and every time you have an update, this code gets also audited, and it gets you into future. And I think this is really a way to go, because it is hard for me, once that I started to think about this issue, to trust those reports that are just available in a single moment. Because if they were published, for example, 2 months ago, that doesn't mean anything about the current security. I hope you follow me on that one.
Yeah, definitely. And like the great example there is just the migration of the contract. Like that's brand new code being deployed right there. So I think that's what something that we're really, or I want to see more in the space is like, okay, look, we don't have just this one audit. It's constant provision and looking over the code, which is exactly what you touched on with the subscription-based model. So I think that would be really interesting to see rolled out, and it's important. And this also circles back to the same thing. Like there's a really prime example of something that happened on Binance Smart Chain, and I won't drop any names, but it was a project that was just really excited to just push out their product, push out this code. And that's the typical sort of tempo and pace of a startup. You really want to ship your products. Let's ship. This ties back into setting hard deadlines. Sometimes it's balancing these quality control checks. Like, is it ready to push, or are we just eager to get our next product out? And I think that just ties into, look, Andre may come on here and say, we're trying to launch on chain XYZ in a couple weeks. But if it does take a week or two longer, it's not the end of the world. I'd honestly be happy to see it take just a little bit longer and have the team be confident behind it. Because again, there's no right answer to these things. It's all humans coding these things. So even like a third, fourth, fifth pair of eyes, they can miss something sometimes. So taking time on it is important. I just think that's always a good question to surface, see where your guys' thoughts are with that. And I think the main thing is just being proactive on these things and constantly having checkups. And it sounds like that's where you guys are moving towards. I'd like to kind of push that more next time we jump on and see if you guys have any update there. Maybe if Hacking is offering some sort of subscription or anything.
I can tell you for sure that you have just described my like daily argument with my CTO, because I am, as the business person, I am always interested in getting the largest possible part of the market like we can right now. And he, like the guy who is responsible for the tech stuff and who always thinks about the security, he always tries to, slow it down. So he makes sure that everything is working. And I'm over our calls and meetings explaining like, look, we need to run while we have this sort of market we have right now. Because obviously, if we see that, let's say in December or January, we have this large, nice red candle that basically says that, okay, we are no longer in bull market, we are in bear market, that may be better for the developers. It may give us time to sit down, relax, and slowly develop. But right now, where I personally do believe we're still in the bull market, we need to be as fast as we can.
Yeah, and it's really like a push and pull, finding that equilibrium there indefinitely. That's something that does come good out of bear markets. It seems like people really have time to dig into what happened in the past, break things down, and spend time. So yeah, I definitely think it's sort of this idea of like having quality control checks, but pushing out products. Sort of to move forward here, getting into like building the future and getting out, what is sort of Allbridge's multi-chain future, and how are you guys looking to achieve that? I mean, I imagine it's something along the lines of how are we in like onboarding non-crypto users, buttoning a lot of things under the hood. I think we touched on some things with liquidity, but I'm sure you could elaborate a lot more on those things.
There are a few different ways to move into future. So our like nearest milestone is to get as many chains as we possibly can and be there, enabling people to transfer from here and there. This is the easiest part from what we have in mind. Now, getting users to be able to allocate liquidity cross-chain, it is something cool, and we're definitely looking into that. Hope to tell you more after I finalize my researches. Other than that, my vision, and just between like you and me and all our viewers, of course, I'm not speaking right now about the next months. I'm speaking about like one more year or even 2 years of development. But ultimately, I do believe that the best future for the bridge is building cross-chain swaps on top of the bridge tech. And if we see one day sooner or later that we are able to take Ether on Ethereum and then convert it not to wrapped Ether on Solana, but to Solana, the native Solana itself, and all this swap happens under the hood. And for users, it is just a simple transaction. This is the way to go. But of course, it is a long, it is a long development plan.
Yeah, and it's crazy to think like it's pretty close, right? I mean, to minimize that, it's massive, right? For a user to click one transaction and be able to swap from Ethereum to Solana, it's massive. For me, a crypto user, I'm like, I don't care. I'll do the extra 2-3 transactions. But I think once we start getting towards that in the next 1, 2, 3, 4 years out, that's like a massive kind of point of adoption for crypto. And it really shows the infrastructure that something like Allbridge and bridge platforms can provide. And I think we touched on
Yeah, I just wanted to say that, I mean, by saying 4 years, I think you're being a bit pessimistic here. I would say 1 to 2 years, depending on how infrastructure is working and how the development process is going. But I think that 2 years is kind of realistic time frame for such development.
Yeah, that's nice to hear. And yeah, it's not something that happens overnight, but it's also 2 years in something in this space it's not crazy. This space is very new. So for that to happen, it's not that big of a deal at all. And kind of just to keep moving forward here, I know you shared a lot of alpha on Allbridge. I'm starting to get towards the end of what I have to ask Andre here. So I see one question in chat. If anyone else wants to drop any in there, I will be able to pick up on those. No, when Allbridge Moon. I think that answer we all know the answer to, whether you like it or not. It's whatever. But just to keep moving forward here, do you have any other things you maybe want to share that's going on at Allbridge or even at APY Swap, kind of above everything else?
So we are on the same page. What is important for me right now in terms of the deployment? First, it is, as I said, adding 3 more chains, like right now, Phantom, Arbitrum, and then Terra. I'm speaking short term, like next 4 weeks. Then it is also important for me to right now deploy the bridge, the dynamic fees model for the bridge on other chains too. Then show this to the community with the numbers and ultimately provide the value to the stakers so they know they are part of the grand business model. I think this is what we need to focus on right now. And probably by the time of our next call, I will have more plans in my head. I mean, I have the plans right now. I just think that those things I'm describing at the moment are really important. And probably it is something, if we can achieve everything that I just described in the next 4 weeks, it's going to be cool, like seriously cool.
Yeah, and I think those are a lot of things that those products actually have demand. Getting this dynamic fee structure out there, getting the multi-chain support, like the DeFi ecosystem is only expanding from here. So allowing people, like I remember 3, 4, 5 months ago, just trying to get cross-chain. I mean, I said this last stream, just trying to get cross-chain from BSC to Solana was like a nightmare. I ended up just using centralized exchanges because it was easier. But now it's like I'm just flipping through and it's like, oh, I need to grab something on Avalanche. Let me just hop over really quick. Or, oh, back over to Polygon, back over to Solana. Like this can all be done within like minutes. I can hop between 2, 3 chains. So I think expanding that and then making it more efficient and for Allbridge as a company itself, I think is incredibly important. And something on my end, I look forward to having you guys back on once all of these developments come out. That'll sort of be our timeline here. Just you guys keep shipping products. So as long as that's happening, I don't see a reason for you guys to keep coming on because every time there's something interesting, something new coming out. To jump into some of the questions, we have a lot of people asking the same question, and they want to know if that there will be an incentive for early ABR stakers. Not sure if you have any.
Yes, I have had a meeting today in my office, and again, I'm sharing it exclusively here on this call. The official announcement for that should come hopefully by the end of this week. I want to rebuild the breach fees distribution. So right now it is sort of the flat distribution, I mean percentage wise for all the token holders, regardless of where they step in right now or 1 year later. I do think this is not fair to the community. I listen to what community wants in terms of rewards. So as I originally said, the reward program for stakers, it is based on 2 parts. First part, it is something that we provide as an Allbridge, as the company, which is basically the allocation of tokens that we take from the treasury and distribute. And the other part, it is what comes from the fees. In my example right now, and in my vision, it is that the ABR we bought on exchange using the money we earned from fees and we put it into, and then we take something that is offered by the company, add to the something that comes from the market and distribute. I do feel that instead of linear distribution over the next 2 years, this model needs to be more aggressive towards those who start early. And I'm reconsidering right now, and as I said, I will share with you more on this later this week. I want people who will stake like right now, like this week, maybe like next week, let me do the deployment, will get the most. Then the next week, they will get slightly less in terms of the guarantee token, and that would be declining. So those people that will jump in now, those people who are early stakers, they will be the ultimate guys who benefit the most from the staking model. This is what we are doing now. This is what we discussed today. This is what we will share this week. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think you answered Matthew, Bogdan, and Claudia's question, and they all seem to be pretty happy. I think this is starting to wrap it up. Cowboy Killer is just excited about the Arbitrum launch that is coming in the near future. He says it's going to be a big part of the future of Allbridge. So that's exciting. Other than that, Andre, I mean, you had a ton of updates. I really enjoyed you sharing insight about Lisbon and all the developments you guys have pushed since we last spoke, and then everything that's coming in the future. Other than that, I'm all wrapped up. Thank you so much for joining me. You shared a ton of alpha on this live stream. So everyone who tuned in, thank you for coming, and you guys have a leg up on the community. So thank you so much to Andre for sharing everything. And
thank you too. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you so much, Andre. I'm just going to wrap this up here. Awesome, guys. Thanks everyone for joining. It looks like chat is pretty happy with sort of those last questions that were answered. I really like the insight that Andre gave into Lisbon at Breakpoint. I think that was sort of an amazing conference for the Solana ecosystem as a whole, really flexed the muscles of Solana and showed that it's here to stay, especially with having Allbridge build on Solana and that be sort of its mainstay. I think that's massive for Allbridge as well. Other than that, we know there's a ton of developments coming, whether it's developments for more chains, more dynamic fee structures, more staking rewards. There's a ton coming. And I mean, we can only wait and see till these products are shipped. But as of now, Allbridge has been on a roll. We jumped on a stream with them about a month ago, and we were able to get a lot of insight on what they were looking to deploy. They deployed all of that, even some more. I think something that slipped my mind is they even have a cool bridge that is going from Genopets on BSC to Solana, which I just think is really cool, being someone on Binance Smart Chain myself. But other than that, I'm just going to wrap this up here, and we'll just wait and see all of the developments coming out of Allbridge. The best place to see this is going to be their Twitter, Solana News Twitter. We always have an eye on Allbridge developments. Other than that, guys, please go ahead and subscribe to the YouTube channel. Definitely like this video so we can know that you guys enjoy having Andre and Allbridge on here. And then even hit that notification icon, because we are not slowing down on content anytime soon. So again, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will catch you soon.